Alright, so hopefully you guys are able to complete the ball bearing drawing from an earlier video, the groove pin drawing from an earlier video, the jack screw, and the housing. And in this video we are going to continue on with the housing by drawing the handle on the top. So I'm going to go to the steps for the housing, and I'm going to double click the sketch, and I got to turn off that groove pin, and I'm going to view normal to my sketch plane. Now let's take a look at the actual drawing itself. So in order to draw the handle in 3D, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to sweep the profile, or this revolved section, from one side of the handle to the other. And this profile needs to follow a path. So the path I'm going to want it to follow is the top edge of the handle itself. I'm not going to worry about the fillets. Those are something that can be done after it's in 3D. I'm not going to worry about this or this. Those are ridges that are formed by parts of the handle itself. So my first goal is to just get that top ridge, which consists of 3 arcs. So I'm going to locate those arcs, or the sizes of them. The first one is a 6-inch radius. Then we have a 1 5/16 radius located at this position here. And I'm just going to extend that a little bit. So there is one. My 6-inch is another. And I have a 1 5/16 on the other side, located by this center point here. My 6-inch radius arc is tangent to the two 1 5/16 radius arcs. So in order to get the 6-inch one, I have to have the 1 5/16 arcs drawn first. So let's get our framework. And our framework are the center lines, so I can locate the center points for the 2 arcs I need first. And so I have an end. I know that this center line is 1 9/16 over. I know the next center line is 2 1/8 from that. And I know that these two center lines are 7/16 apart, and that this center line is 2 3/16 up from the horizontal one. So I'm going to draw a sketch of my 2 crosses, and then I'm going to add those 4 dimensions in to kind of lock it in place. So let's go to our drawing, and I'm going to just zoom in, and I'm going to turn on my line command and make it a construction line. And I'm just going to guess. This is not going to be very accurate. I'm going to draw a line here, and then I'm going to draw a line. Let's go in. It's okay to have it yellow and be in line with the center point of this. That's fine. We'll just have it cross right through the center, and there it is. I'll click the end to stop that. And then we're going to have another one over here. I don't want it to be lined up with anything. I want it to be free to be constrained later. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not lining up with anything. Nothing's yellow and locking me into place. Okay, so this one shows me that it wants to be 90 degrees with that particular line. That's okay. It can be 90 degrees with that. Okay, and I'll end this by clicking on the endpoint. I'll line it up with the center there. That's fine. And I'll slide it through. So I've got my construction lines. Now I will start to dimension their locations with my dimension tool. So from the top of the housing to this line right here, there's going to be a dimension. And it is 1 9/16. So I'm going to type in 1 9/16. There's the location of it. The next one It's from this vertical line. I'm making sure I'm selecting the line and not just like this center point or anything. The line and the line itself. And I'll zoom out a little bit and bring this up. And that is supposed to be 2 1/8. So I'm going to type in 2 1/8. And that locates that. Then I need a distance between these two, vertical to vertical distance. And that is supposed to be 7/16. So this one is done. This one is done. I'm going to get my 7/16. And so I'll type in 7/16. And that gives me my separation. And then the last one, I've got the 7/16. The last one is the height of this. So it's 2 3/16. So we'll come back here. We'll do our dimension. And we'll say from here to here is 2 3/16. And it squishes it down. And it looks like something weird happened here. We'll just zoom in on it. And my center line, it just got collapsed. It just got crushed. So I'm going to uncheck this dimension. And I'm just going to drag this out and make it a little bit bigger. Go ahead and just drag it out. I'll drag this one out a little bit just for giggles. There it is. So it's easier to see. I'll do the same thing over here. Just drag this one out. And I'll drag this one out over here. Oops. And that's what I get for dragging and seeing that it's trying to be coincident or trying to be on that line, which it won't be allowed to do. So it's going to yell at me. So I'll just drag it past, and I'll try to make sure that it's not even with anything. Oh, what a pain in the neck! It doesn't like that. Well, we'll just leave it here. I can still see I can see the cross. All right, so those are the center points of my 1 5/16 circles. I've got my measurements down. There's all black. It's all locked in except for the blue endpoints, and that's okay. So now let's draw some arcs. You know, I'm starting to be a fan of arcs in this program versus the arcs in AutoCAD. The arcs in AutoCAD are kind of a pain. The arcs here in OnShape are kind of handy. So I'm going to choose the center point here where the two lines cross. I want to be on this line and on this line at the same time. There's my center point here. And I am just going to draw way more arc than I need. I'm going to come across and then in, and I make sure I'm not lined up with anything. Hopefully I'm not lined up with anything. And then I'll come over here and I'll do the same thing. And I'll start maybe inside here, make sure there's nothing. And I'll come across over here. And that's looks pretty good. I'm going to dimension this one. And I'll say that it is 1 5/16. Should be 1 5/16. And I'll make this arc and this arc equal with each other. So they're locked into place. Okay. All I have to do now is create my 6-inch arc. I'm going to click the arc command. I'm going to come down here. I'll just guess, you know, it's going to hit around the top here and the top here, and I'll make kind of like a little triangle. So if I had to guess my arc coming around here of a radius of 6, and I had to guess that, you know, where the center point would be, I'd guess down here somewhere. So I'm just going to make a guesstimate down here for my center point. So here I go with my arc. I'll guess right around here somewhere. Make sure I'm not lined up. See that yellow show up? Got to be careful. I can get myself in trouble by constraining it. That if I lock it in, it'll always be in line with that midpoint up there, and I will never be able to move it. I don't want that. I want it to free float out here somewhere. So here, I'll come up, and I'm not going to lock in with anything yellow. I don't want it to line up there. That yellow is dangerous. Come off of that. Draw myself an arc, make sure I'm not locked, not constraining it at all. Come over here. Now, I'll constrain it just by the dimension. And I'll say it needs to be 6. Right now it's almost 7. There it is. Whew, That's crazy. Look at that. So now I'm going to uncheck this, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag my center point up a little bit above this, right about there. I can click and drag my center point here if I wanted to, but as long as I'm above it, I can now use my tangent. I can be tangent or touching this, and even though it looks like it's tangent, I got to make sure, click here and here, and now it's all black. It's locked into place, and now I can use my scissors to trim this up a little bit because I want a nice smooth path for my sweep. So I'm gonna go through. I can actually drag this back a little bit, drag this back a little bit, whoop, drag this back a little bit, so there's a little less for me to cut. Drag this, just drag this because I got no tool selected at the top. I'm going to leave this, I'm going to drag it down in here a little bit more, and I'll leave that there. This is important. I'm leaving this here, and I'm leaving this here, so that when I sweep my profile, it goes down into my object and can be fused with it using Boolean. And then I come down here, it'll go into my object, but not through it. I don't want to do that. So I can sweep and fuse my object, kind of like two droplets of water combining. You're not going to get those apart because they're going to be fused together. So now let's sweep that away, and let's clean it up a little bit more accurately here with the scissors. I'm going to trim this away a little bit, come in, do a little bit more like that, come back, come over here and here, and now I've got a path to sweep. All right, so that is one of the steps. Now if I come back over to my drawing and I look, you'll notice the profile that I have to make, which is a little bit of a challenge, not too bad, has a center line running through it, and that center line is right in line with the center point of the drawing, or sorry, of the 6-inch radius. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So it's the midpoint to the midpoint, and it's lined up normal to the curves. What that means is it's from the middle of this and the middle of this, normal to the curves, looking straight on at it. If I were to bring this down, it would hit the center point of this 6-inch radius. They would be in line with each other, because anytime you have a line or two circles that are concentric or having the same center point, they'll appear parallel, and if you put a line bisecting them normal to or at the same midpoints for those arcs, it'll line up and hit that center. So I'm going to sweep this away. Long story short, I need this line to help guide me. I'm going to put a construction line in there. So let's go back in to the drawing. And now that it's all cleaned up, no extra lines, I know where my midpoint is, and I can see the center point of my 6-inch radius circle. Here it is. There's my 6-inch radius circle. There's the center point. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a line, a construction line, find the midpoint by moving along and looking for a plus or a box and a line with a dot in the middle. That's the midpoint constraint. So right smack dab in the middle of that arc, I'm going to click, and I'm going to come down, and I'm going to make it coincident or on the same center point. And there it is. And so now that's normal to, or essentially quote unquote 90 degrees with that point of that arc. All right, so my profile curve is going to be drawn on here, but I have to revolve it 90 degrees with the front plane of what I'm drawing on. So I'm going to hit the, I shall do one more thing here just in case. I'll put a point object on the end here. Point objects can be seen pretty much from any view or any one of the construction planes. So I'm just going to stick a point object there just in case I need it. All right, it's not going to hurt anything. I'll click check mark. There it is, and I will make it visible. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I want to draw my profile curve on this axis. So I need to make a plane. Ooh, that's a great profile curve. I need to make a plane that is in line with this axis. So let me get rid of that. I need to make a plane along this line here so I can work on it like a work surface. So my plane is my work surface. I'll come up to plane here and I'll say plane point, line angle, point normal, 3-point, midpoint, curve point. Well, I've got a line here. Let's try the one that has the word line in it. Line angle. I'm going to click on this line. And notice already the line kind of is where the plane is right where I want it to be. So there it is. I want it on that spot. So I don't have to change the angle. If I wanted to change the angle, I could there, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to accept that. So now I'm going to draw my profile on plane 1. So I'm going to right click it. I'm going to do a new sketch. And I'm going to draw the new sketch normal to that sketch plane. So I'm looking right in line, and I put that point there, which has like an empty spot. It's not a dark point. I know this is the top of the arc. So actually now I'm kind of glad I put that point object. I can identify it a little bit easier. Okay. So let me put some boundaries here. Let me draw a line and a construction line, and let's make it even with that. Let's come way out here, ridiculously wide out there, and out here. There it is. And I'll come down, and I'll come over, and even with this, and I'll just make a rectangle here. Okay. Now, way bigger than I need to. Let's check my drawing. I need to make this weird shape. So let's get a closer look at it. Come over to the side here, bring it down. Okay, so first off, we can't have it be any wider than 7/8. It's going to be 7/8 wide. We can't have it be any taller than whatever this height here is, which is the difference between this radius and this radius, or the difference between 13/16 and 1 5/16, which if we do the math, we'll see that it's a 1/2 inch difference. So it's a 1/2 inch tall, 7/8 wide. So I'm going to make my bounds box I just made a 1/2 inch tall, 7/8 wide. So let's take this. Whoops, I got to get out of this command here. Let's right click, escape line, and click my dimension tool. Let's make this 7/8. Whoa, that's way bigger than 7/8. 7/8 wide, can't be any wider than 7/8. And now I want to make it 1/2 inch tall. So I'll come out here and I'll make it 0.5. So that is where my object is going to fit in. Okay. Problem is, it looks like this thing's not in the center point. I don't think I made it be the center point of this. I wonder if I can fix that. I wonder if I can say, hey, use the midpoint. Midpoint of this has to be on that dot, and it shifts it over. Now we're good. All right, so it's even on both sides. It's symmetrical, and we can start drawing our profile. So let's clear this out and take a look. All right, so this has a 7/8 curve, and it touches the bottom, and it's on the middle point. That should be easy enough to do. Let's do an arc. that the center point lines up with the line that we're on, right? Lines up with the line that we're on. It's in line with all this. Okay, and let's click. And now it comes over here and over here. And it has a radius of 7/8. Not only does it have a radius of 7/8, but it has to be tangent to, or the bottom of it has to be coincident with this point here. So let's do coincident. It has to go or touch this line there. Whoops. Maybe this point here. Awesome. Cool, the center point. Let's undo that. Let's do tangent. We know it has to touch it, so let's go tangent with this line. Cool. All right. And we can take off any tools here. We can bring this down a little bit. Bring this down a little bit if we want. We can even make sure that it's touching those and not outside of that. Awesome. We've got our 7/8 radius. 7/8 radius for our weird shape. All right, check. Got that bottom one. We know we've got a 3/32 radius arc at the top here. Let's draw that top one. Let's do our boundaries. So let's go to our arc. We know it's got to be, on this line here or in line with it. That's fine if it's coincident with this. So our center point's going to be here. And it's going to kind of come down and around. We know we want it to be tangent with this. And we know we want the size of it to be, I think it was, what was that? 3/32. Yep. 3/32. Awesome. Cool. Now check this out. We've got a radius and a radius over here that are also 3/32 and touch the edge and touch the 7/8. So let's put those in. All right, we know that we've got an arc that's going to be out here somewhere, and we know it's going to kind of come like this, come around. We know it's going to be tangent to this. We know it's going to be tangent to the bottom. And we know that the size is going to be 3/32 or equal with the top one. There it is. Cool. We also know we have the same thing on the other side. So I think we could probably just mirror this over. So select a mirror line, this vertical line. And the entity is going to be this one. Same thing on the other side. Awesome. Okay. Uncheck that. And now what else do we have to do? Let's come here. Oh, looks like we got another arc that's 3/16. Let's sweep everything away. It's getting a little convoluted. So this touches this arc. It's tangent to. So it's almost like a fillet. And so let's do the 3/16. Okay, so let's come back over here. And let's make an arc. And let's make the center point not touch anything. And let's make it way out here, because it doesn't matter. We're going to constrain it tangent with this one. We're going to constrain it tangent with this one. We are going to make it have a radius of 3/16. So let's go through and see if it fits. 3/16. There, it looks like it fits in there pretty well. It's following all the rules. Let's zoom in on this. So let's bring this down a little bit. Look at that. Look at that. Tangent. Fits in our bounds. All is good. Let's make this one kind of symmetrical. Just dragging it over. Let's do a mirror. Here's our mirror line. Send this to the other side also. And looky. It encloses the object. And it's all black. So it's all locked into place except for the blue ends. Let's just clean it up a little bit. We don't really have to. You know what? This may bug some of you, but I'm going to leave it messy like this. The reason for that is because when I go to extrude, or sorry, to sweep it along a path, this gray part is the only part that's going to get swept, right? Only that stuff is be solid. Only that counts as the outline. So let's leave it messy and see what happens. Let's see if we regret this. Okay, so now that's accepted. It's still a little messy. We'll zoom, or we'll turn, and we'll see, and look, we've got a path to follow. And we've got a profile to follow the path. And let's see what happens when we try to do this. Let's sweep this away. Let's try our sweep command, not revolve, but sweep. It's following a path. A profile is following a path. So it says faces and sketches and regions to sweep. We want this face, right? That face right there. And then it says sweep path. I'm going to select sweep path by clicking on it. And let's have it follow this, and this, and this. And we're having it be added to our object. Now let's take a look here. It looks like it's a little shy there. We're just going to go ahead and accept it anyway. What I'll do is I'll come back into my sketch and pull this down a little bit to extend this. So we'll go ahead and click this. It looks like there's a little bit of a gap there. We don't want that. I'll come back into sketch 6. We'll pull this down as far as we can without really connecting to the end. There it is. And now we'll accept it, and we'll see if we still got the gap. Oh, looks like it's closed in. Looks like it's sealed up good. All right, we had to get real close, didn't we? So now here is the handle. And to make it official, we're just going to fill it around the base of the handle. Now this drawing, this locomotive screw jack drawing, was drawn many, many moons ago. So they built this by casting it, and they actually carved models out of wood and then put those models into sand, and then the sand had a little indent of where the model was, and they poured molten iron into it, and it filled it up. So they had a lot of freedom. Our computer technology, at least this drawing program, has a little bit of a limitation. So we are going to take the 3/16 curve first, the smaller one. It'll handle the smaller radiuses, and we're just going to use 3/16 all the way around. We're going to modify this drawing a little bit. So I'm going to come back in, and I'm going to go to my fillet, and I'm going to say 3/16 for my radius. I'm going to keep all the default settings, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to try to get the edges all the way around, and I'll inspect it. I click one, and it kind of figures out where they are. Looks good. And we're just going to keep it simple by using that 3/16. I'm going to click on this. This one's not going to be as nice. Oh, actually, it did a pretty good job of calculating it out. So it's going to put that all the way around, and we're going to accept it. There it is. And so now we have our housing complete. There it is. Looks good. I'm going to turn off sketch 6. Pretty nice. I'm going to make it look even fancier. And let's see, let's shade it without edges. There we go, no edges on it. Ooh, looks pretty cool. Uh-oh. It's not complete, is it? What's going on here? We need some internal threads. Oh, no. Still not done. Are you kidding me? That's easy to take care of. Turn on the jack screw from earlier. The jack screw looks like it's like part of it. That's crazy. let's do something. Let's transform. And let's click the object that we want to transform. And let's translate by X, Y, and Z. So we have an X, Y, and Z axis that shows up, those three arrows. And let's slide it on one. Let's slide it back so that there are threads intersecting our object. We can see a little bit of threads out. We can see some threads out here. I'll go ahead and accept it, and we can see what that does. There it is. I'm going to turn off my planes so it's a little bit easier to see. So let's turn off plane 1. Let's go up here, turn off top, front, right. And so I definitely am going through the top. I'm definitely sticking out of the bottom. Now I'm going to use Boolean and these threads to cut into this. So I'll click on the Boolean tool. And I'm going to do a subtraction. I want to subtract from the gray piece. But the tool I want to use, a tool is what cuts. The blue threads cut into the gray piece. My target, what I want to cut, is the housing. All right. But I don't want to, see how this turned almost transparent? I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want it to delete it. So I want to keep the tool. So I'm keeping this. And now I hit OK. I'm subtracting. I use the jack screw to cut. The housing is what is going to be cut. And I'm going to keep this after it's all said and done. And I'll hit the check mark. Oh, look, it did it. Think. How can I tell? Well, let's turn off the jack screw and see what's left behind. And what's left behind are threads cut in to the housing. Sweet. We got the housing done. We got the jack screw done. We got the groove pin. And we got the ball bearing. The only thing that's left is the ball cap.